Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at a first submission by Karli of her horse Petra. Petra is a 13-year-old. She's had him since she was 5. He's done 100 jumpers, it sounds like, or some jumpers. And she's getting into dressage because she was getting broken at the third vertebrae. And she spent the last year getting him long and low, and it looks like she's doing a really good job. So what I'm seeing here starting out, I'm liking a great deal. Horse is already reaching out with his neck. Quite nice. Good shoulder in there. Quite a nice swinging trot. Now you can see behind the saddle there, you're lacking a little back there, and that dip that you see there behind that saddle is going to fill in over time. I'd like to see the horse stretching a little bit longer than you're getting him there, but this is really pretty good. Nice shoulder forward there with no change of rhythm. That's very good. That's all very good. The horse is working over his top line right there. I feel like you could ask for just a little bit more of this horse than you're getting right there, even if it feels like you're going a little faster for a minute, just a little bit more to get him to swing underneath a little bit more. But once again, this is really good work. You're doing a good job, and this is getting quite there. I would like to see the horse just stretching a little deeper, but it has a good rhythm. Certainly not seeing anything glaring. Good position of the rider. And I like how you're worrying about, once again, we ride long. Once again, we don't worry about having the hands in that perfect position. Once we get the horse going well, then we can begin to equitate on the horse. But sometimes when we're just stretching them, that sort of thing, the reins are long, and it's perfectly okay to have your hands wide a little bit if we use that technique to help us get the horse where we want it to be. And then, of course, once we get the horse working correctly, then you can worry about equitating perfectly, so to speak. So this is all good little shoulder fore. I would like to see a little deeper stretch there. That was a little bit hollow there. Not much, but not bad. She just needs to stretch a little bit lower into the contact to really help his back come up. And you can see, he's a little bit at his flanks there, a little distended, which tells me he's just not working up through his back. I'm not seeing his core engaging as much as I would like to see. But having said that, this is really pretty good work. I'm not seeing anything glaringly terrible here. I would just like to see the horse stretching a little more. And canter work, same thing. And actually, I like the stretch in the canter here better than the stretch you were getting in the trot. That's really quite good. So once again, this tells me this horse is strong enough over its back that you can canter it effectively. It's stretching over its back and not hanging in your hands. That's really good. So everything I'm seeing here is really good work. I just like to see a little more of it. That is a little more depth of the stretch, especially in the trot. Maybe we'll get there before the end of this. But that's really good canter work. And once again, once you feel in that, just try to push it open a little bit more till you get a feeling that the horse isn't rocking, but staying upright through the shoulders and withers there in the canter, that you don't feel like it's rocking from back to forth so much. So you just like the trot there, I felt like you could ask just a little bit more than you're getting there. Once again, we can see how the flanks, this horse is not coming up through its belly as much as we would like to see. Because remember, that's looking a little better there. And it's just a little bit short-strided behind. So I feel if you get this horse a little bit longer, as you said in your letter, you'd like to see him flexing his hocks more. Well, that's dependent on the position of that head and neck. And while none of this is bad, I think you could just get this horse stretching a little deeper, and by virtue of that, you'll see a little better action behind and getting underneath itself a little more. Once again, going this way in the canter, canter's fine. This canter horse canters well enough that you can canter it over its back. Once again, if the horse can't get over its back, you don't want to canter it because it's just going to end up sore in the back and sore in the feet. So you really don't want to do much cantering until you can get a horse over its back, but you're doing that quite well with this one. Seeing no problems there. I love how nice and quietly you're riding. You have a good position. So the one thing I would say, I'd just like to see get this horse stretching a lot more in the trot before you go to the canter. And actually, the horse actually works over its back a little better here in the canter than it does in the trot, and that it could just swing a little deeper under the body, which means we need to get the head and neck lower. Remember, every horse, depending on their level of training, will have a position of the head and neck that allows the optimal free movement, that is the optimal movement of its back upwards, and that therefore allowing its hind legs to move optimally underneath itself. Though this is a better trot now. This is much better than where we started here, so this is really good. So if we can end there, that's good. Good. I like how you have good consistent contact and you're softening the horse beautifully. Now, I would have liked to have seen you gone on there because you were just really getting the horse to work a little better. So that was really more like the trot you want to have and keep to get the horse really working through its back a little more. So when you get that, try to keep it a little bit longer. So again, coming back to the walk, that was all good. Good leg yield. Nothing wrong with this. Always remembering to leg yield with the shoulder slightly advanced, but that was good. Nice square halt there, which the horse came into nicely. The real trick to square halts is simply not interfering with the back end and letting it come up. So many people jam their weight into the horse trying to do stops as if they're doing a sliding stop. Well, that kind of work with your back has no place in dressage. We're not trying to ever freeze the horse's back in place. We want the horse to come up and step up lightly underneath itself. And if we jam our backs into the horse, that will never happen, or stop them abruptly against your hands. So that was very nice. Not a bad walk here. I'd like to see the horse stretching a little deeper into it, just a little more swing, just kind of like the trot work. You know, I love that part when you came out of that canter a little bit. That was more like what we want to see. The horse was getting stretching a little deeper, and it was a little more active. Very nice. That's a better walk coming down through there. Just feel like I want to get this horse, you know, all the way along to just get another foot deeper, that is, so to speak, with its head and neck. So he really stretches out from the shoulder. That's coming better there. You're doing a good job with it. That's more like it. And look how much better the walk is now. It overreaches and gets rhythmic. That's where I want the walk. Good job there. That's where you want the horse to be. So we'd like to get to the point where before we ever come out of the trot, we can get to this walk. So that's really good. We would always want to think of this as where we begin and end. So your warm-up work should end with as much walk as this, and then this is where you end in the end again. That is, unless you're ending with a halt or something like that, which is a good idea as well from time to time. Yes, and the trot looks better here now too. So that was good. I would have liked to have seen a little more of that as you went on there, but that was looking much better. It looked like the stretch was about to get deeper. And that's, once again, the only thing I'm seeing wrong with this that I saw there was I just want to see the horse get a little deeper. Not bad, more action behind there. Even bringing it up into a working trot now. This is a much better working trot than what we saw before. And once again, an okay canter. Could stretch a little deeper, but this horse gets over its back in the canter, so that's a good thing. As long as you can get it over its back, it's doing it good. And your trot is better afterwards. So if this is the kind of horse that you need to do a little canter, if it helps it to get a little better trot, you know, without racing it around the ring, then that's okay. Because this horse does canter well, so that's a good thing. Good, more active trot there. That's really nice. And this is going to turn into a beautiful dressage horse for you. It's really, when you get it right, it really has a nice floaty sense in the trot. But once again, look at the belly. When you go by and you see those moments, you can still see that's hanging down a bit, and she's quite, her sides are like projected. His sides are rather, you know, almost like a pregnant mare. We don't want that look. We want it like a person, you know, that we want the waist to taper to a waist and not be sort of bulging out the sides, so to speak. Now, this is too slow. So this is the kind of trot that we don't want. So I don't think this horse is quite ready for you to sit to the trot on yet. I'd like to see a better trot because the horse kind of fell out behind when you went to the sitting trot. So not too much of that. In other words, if you can't keep the same working trot when you sit, you shouldn't be doing it. So practice your trots, sitting trot to begin with, when you can get that stretch all the way down, and practice it in such a way that it doesn't slow the horse up. Now, same thing here. As soon as you set, see how the hind legs just stopped moving? So as far as that having any value on the horse, it doesn't. And if you sit much like that, it would. That's how so many dressage horses get damaged, because people sit when their backs are not up. So once again, keep the horse moving. So your goal is to keep the exact same rhythm in the trot and the same length of step when you go to the sitting trot. So if you have to shorten the horse up, you know, to the point where its hind legs are barely moving, which is what happened to you there, you know, it really doesn't have any value. So you're better off keeping it swinging. This is a better trot. Now, this is what we want to see. So at least this much. But this horse, as you say, you know, it may be a little straight behind, doesn't get under itself so easily, you know, not terribly, but that's more like it. And as soon as it gets to stretch and we see the horse beginning to flex, and we realize that's a much more optimal trot for the horse. So do your sitting trots. Every sitting trot at this level, the horse should start with the horse completely stretched all the way down, and try to do it without changing or shortening the stride. Same thing here. The horse is going to kind of stop moving behind enough, so it needs a deeper stretch, more activity. So when your horse is working through the back, you'll be able to sit to it comfortably in a full working trot when the horse's back can really swing. But if we shorten the horse up, which is what you're doing here a little bit, this is too slow. Same thing here, sitting trot. This is a little better sitting trot than you had the last time. That's better than the other one was. Keep the same active sitting trot. But I still want to, for me, I feel like the horse is just not up through its back enough to really do that much sitting trot and have it be of any real value for it. Like there, her back legs are kind of falling, his back legs are falling out behind him again. So more active swinging, a little deeper in the stretch, you're almost there. But just don't waste your time doing bad sitting trots because they don't help you and they don't help the horse either. It just teaches the horse to shorten up its stride. So remember that collection is not shortening the horse's stride. It's elevating a big stride. You know, so it's not shortening the horse up, and that's what everybody seems to think these days, that collection is, you know, pull them together and shorten the stride. That's not collection. Collection, remember, is the degree to which the horse maintains the lowering of the three joints of the hind legs. Watch Charlotte Dujardin on her horse that won the last Olympics, and she just won the WEG also. That's a horse doing collection correctly. It stays collected throughout the entire test. So look at that horse, and that's what collection is supposed to look like. It stays lowered throughout the entire test. That's training. Now you can see how the horse's head is so high here. Now this canter is becoming kind of short. The back leg isn't swinging much, so I don't like this canter at all. The circle is too small. You can see the horse kind of stumbling out of it. And same through for that flying change. It kind of threw its head up and hollowed. So I would like to see your canter get better, get deeper. I'd like to see the horse working through its back a little more before you do those kind of things. It's not, I mean, obviously this horse will do them, but is it doing in such a way, like right here, the canter is very hollow. And you see how the horse, yes, it did a flying change, but it just kind of stumbled through the flying change. It didn't really jump through its back. It hollowed and then put one end through and then put the other end through. So that doesn't do us a whole lot of good. So we want to get a more swinging, bigger canter. And same thing, this is worthless. This is work that you shouldn't be doing at all with this horse. It's much too small a circle. Trying to do a pirouette with this horse, all it can do is fall apart. So you're really putting yourself way ahead of the game here. You need that comes way down the road. I know you're just trying, that's good. Come back to a better trot. But you see how the back end's kind of falling out behind. Again, you've lost that big, beautiful swing. So remember, the back has to guide everything we do. So if you go into movements like you just did, trying to do that little pirouette thing and trying to do those flying changes, you know, the only thing you got was a horse falling apart because the horse isn't ready to do either of those exercises. Yes, you kind of did something that kind of looked like those exercises, but not good enough. Now, this is the best trot I've seen. This is better now. Getting better flexion, and so again, getting a little deeper. And once again, it's not bad to go try these things and amuse yourself from time to time, but you know, that certainly wouldn't want to be anything that you'd add to your regular workout at this level of this horse, because it's not ready to do them and all that's going to happen. And if you try to do it too much, then the horse starts resisting, then you start fighting it, trying to get the exercises, and then you ruin the horse for future work, which is why we see so many dressage horses that are ruined for future work, because they've been asked to do exercise that they're not physically prepared to do. So everything just kind of falls apart, and then they get more and more and more resistance. So once again, same thing here with this trot. I want to see it stretching a little bit deeper. This horse needs to have its foot and its head and neck down another 1.5 feet. That's not a bad little lengthening, a little swing there. It's good. That's good enough. You can do that. But I'd like to see you come back to a deeper stretch after it. But I like how the horse is moving better here. It's getting a little more active. That's what we want to see. Good. Not a bad little lengthening. You can do that with some usefulness for the horse. But come back to a deeper stretch. Same thing there with that halt. You know, you want to take a little more time in your halt to kind of just put that horse into it rather quickly. And, you know, so once again, on that day, I would like to see a deeper stretch. Once again, okay, the canter work was okay till you started trying to do flying changes and pirouettes, and those things were just way outside of this horse's capability at this moment. So don't do them. And if you wait a little while longer till the horse gets more over its back and strong, because you don't want to get the horse doing things badly at this point, and then things that you have to go and you know, correct later on, you know, because trying to do things with horses that are not ready to do them. Now, this is a nice stretch. I love this. That's good. That's how I want to see that shoulder in stretching in. So understand that you don't have to pull the horse into a frame to do shoulder ins. You can do all the lateral work in a long frame with the horse stretched all the way down, as you've seen us do it. Some of our horses, like watch the full-length videos with Amber with her horse. You know, we want to work where the horse can work. Now, this is the best trot I've seen on the horse yet. This is much better than it was on the inside. You know, sometimes horses are just more, and even people tend to not want to move as forward inside as they do outside. So maybe the space is a little bigger, but they feel a little freer or whatever it is that makes them move a little more freely. So once again, not a bad trot. I'd like to see him stretch a little bit deeper. The belly's looking a little better there and starting to pull up a little bit. So once again, before you'd want to go and try those canter pirouettes and flying changes and those sort of things, you want to see the horse working much more over its back in order to do that successfully. And because if you do the flying change and the horse throws its head up and hollows like you did, you really haven't taught the horse anything. You've just put it in a bad position to do something. So wait till your age gets a little more consistent, gets more consistent over its back, and then add those more difficult exercises. But certainly here in the trot, you can add the shoulder ins and leg yields. I would say would be about it right here. You can work up to doing half passes, but this horse doesn't look like it's working up through the back enough to me to begin to work in half pass, and that I would start the half passes in the walk. You can do that. And still in a long frame. Now remember, the difference between a half pass, a shoulder in, and a leg yield is that in the half pass the horse is moving in the direction of the bend. Now that's really good right through there. Now this is the best stretch and the best trot I've seen yet. And I can actually see his belly beginning right behind your leg. You want to look and you want to see a line beginning to form along the edge of the ribs, just like a person who has, who is fit, and you see that line along their abs. Well, that's what we're looking for, the same thing in the horse. Because remember, it's not just the top line we're working the entire horse's core, just like Pilates for a person. You can't have a strong back and not have a strong midsection as well, and a belly and that sort of thing. So the pieces have to work together. But I like this trot a lot better than what I saw inside. Even your shoulder in work is more active. It's got more fluency to it. It's got a little more bounce in the trot, so that tells me you're on the right track there. That's really good. So again, could be a little deeper. Keep going. You see how every time his head comes up, that back end kind of shortens up a little bit. We want to see that full swing and overreach in the trot. And as I said later on, when we get collection is not shortening the stride. It's the horse lowering and maintaining the lowering of the hindquarters so that the stride becomes more elevated, whatever the stride may be. So yes, we lose a little ground, but that's how we gain brilliance. Because if we take a horse that's not, you can take one of these $1 million movers that, they're starting to breed horses that look more like saddlebreds than they look like dressage horses, to me anyway. But they have all this knee action. Don't be fooled by that, because that's nothing, saddlebreds have all this knee action, but they're completely hollow and completely on the forehand their entire lives. And of course, last only a few years for that very reason, is the way they are trained. But we want to keep a horse for 25 years and have it a good long, healthy life. They'll only do that if they work over their backs. Also has a big difference to whether a horse colics or not. Horses that never use their abdominal muscles correctly have a lot more colic cases, because their abdominal muscles are part of the digestive system. And if they're not taught the way they should be, they don't massage the intestines and they don't help the digestion. So horses whose bellies are kind of falling out, like this one is a little bit, you're going to bring that into condition a lot better. I mean, you can see how his belly's kind of wider than his hindquarters, so to speak. So, but that's going to go away if you keep working the horse like this. He's going to get up through his back. And in fact, here in this tape, he does look better through the midsection there, through his waistline, so to speak, than he did in the one inside. So this is looking a little better even. And they can change over a couple of days too, so that's a good thing. Once again, your canter's okay, and I like how you're doing a nice soft canter. The horse is round enough in the canter and getting up off its back and just letting it go. That's just what you want to do. Let that feel that wave round underneath you. Good stretch here. This is what I want to see. So when we get the stretch all the way down, the thing to understand is you want to stay there. Once you can get that really deep stretch, you want to work the horse a lot all the way down there. And then once you find that optimal length of stride, which I think you're only just now starting to get with this horse, then you start to bring the horse up. But you never bring him up until you find that optimal stride with the horse really working all the way over its back. But I do like this trot a lot better than what we got inside. It's a little springier, a little more forward moving. By forward, I mean engaging forward under the body. That's also a term that people don't understand. Moving forward does not mean running forward in that direction. It means engaging forward under the body straight. So it's kind of a misconception that people hear forward and they think it means, oh, go run around the arena. That's not what it means at all. It means to engage forward under the body. Forward and straight. Once again, I just like to see the horse. I feel like the neck is too high here, and see how the back end. See, the hind legs are kind of falling out the back. Even when you bring her just that high, you lose that nice swing. So let's get him deeper and keep him there. You just see how the hind leg is kind of pushing when it's behind the body in this position. So that's why we've got to get the neck further out there. And once again, remember that it doesn't matter whether the horse is 2 years old or 13 years old. If you've never done, the 2 years that it takes to develop the horse correctly, it's going to take that time whether when it's 13 or when it's 20. I've even done some. The oldest one I've done is 27 years old. So I was able to take a 27-year-old hollow back, sway back horse, and in a year bring its back all the way up to almost level again at that age. So you can certainly do it with this horse. And you certainly want to. Once again, just needs to be lower through the neck here. He's just kind of bracing. He's turtling his neck back in the body a little bit. So you've lost that length and you kind of compress the shoulder a little bit. So that neck just needs to be out there and longer till we can keep that swing. So remember the gait's what's important, People who don't understand riding, and which includes a great deal of trainers in the world today, they're basically trying to fight the front end of the horse into some position that they think is on the bridle. In most cases, it's either forced against the bridle or it's behind the bit when they finally just break at the jaw and break at the third vertebrae. Then the horses, they think it's lightness, but lightness is a horse coming forward into a positive contact, but not a pulling contact with the reins. Once again, not a bad canter. Pretty well over its back there. Once again, I said this horse actually canters better than it trots. And that's true of, 1 in every 100 horses that I see. But this horse is able to canter over its back pretty nicely. A nice little, it's really nice. I like everything you're doing there. And that's appropriate for this horse at this level. What you're doing is shallow loop serpentine. That's really good. All good with no change of rhythm. Like what I see there. I like how you're sitting rather light. We're in a hunter style. That's perfectly fine. We want to keep our seat light until we get a horse working over its back. So if there's nothing to sit on, in other words, the back is not up, you shouldn't be sitting on it. And that's the trouble with what your sitting trot work that you showed me on the previous day, is that he just wasn't working up through his back enough, and all he could do was really slow down. But that's really a nice counter canter there, really well done. This horse certainly has a nice attitude. You've done a nice job with him. Get him working over his back a little more, and I'm sure this is going to turn into a beautiful dressage horse for you, and you'll be amazed at how good he will move when you really get him working over his back a little more, and when we get him to pull up through the belly there a little more and just lift that whole back. And just once again, this horse looks a little downhill. That's because it's never developed correctly. So when you do this work correctly over the 2 years, you're going to see the withers really come up through the shoulders, which is what happens in correct training. And the horse will have a much more uphill appearance. So give it time and you'll see the horse change. So I'd like to see it now. That's not a bad trot there, but see how you come to that corner and you go to the corner and all of a sudden the horse's hind legs kind of fall out behind. So that's, once again, it just needs to get lower in the neck. That's a little better there. So when you go in a straight line and you have her head there, it's not too bad. But then you go to make a turn, and all of a sudden the hind end kind of shortens up a little bit, though that one was much better than the one at the other end. So I still just like to see you getting him a little bit longer and lower, but that's pretty good. I mean, you're 3/4 of the way there, if not 80% there, of having it really, really right, and you're doing a great job with him. So really good job. I like how that last transition just came back very quietly. You never want to slam on the brakes. We don't ever want to slam on the brakes. Every time we do that, we take a little tread off the tires, as we like to say. Just like driving your car. So make those smooth transitions downwards and upwards. Now you can see that horse when you just started that little canter, how it threw its head and just kind of hollowed on you. And that's a good thing to do, to just come back and let it walk. Once again, to see how the head is a little too high there and the back end gets a little stiff looking, so let it stretch all the way down. So you need to get more complete stretches throughout your work, that you really be sure, and really don't worry about anything until you get the horse down there another foot. It just needs to stretch out a little bit more and be capable of staying there, and then you're going to see that top line develop a lot more than what you got there. But he certainly looks like a really pleasant horse, and it's going to turn into something really nice for you. Good. And you've done a good job of correcting the problems. As you said, I'm not seeing a lot of break in the neck. That seems to be pretty much over. I just want to see more stretch out from the base of the shoulder, and that's what lets the shoulders move freely. If the neck is being pulled back up and back into the body, well, what do you think it does to the shoulders? It's against the shoulders. So, you're pulling the neck up and back and yet expecting the shoulders to swing out forward. It doesn't work that way. So we've got to get the full length of the horse's neck, and then we keep that full length. We simply just bring it up. And as the horse, collection, once again, is something that happens in the back end. The head and neck, every horse is a little different. Their necks come out differently out of the body. They're not going to all look like Lipizzaner's, or they're not going to all look like some of these dressage horses today that people spend $1 million for, that the shoulders come straight up out of the neck, or that is the neck comes straight up out of the shoulders. And they can get this false frame very easily. Well, you couldn't do that. And of course, that's what's led to so much confusion for people, because they see these riders winning all this stuff on these hollow horses, and they go and take a lesson with their horse who doesn't have that $1 million movement and can't get by with just lifting its knees up because it's not so fabulous a mover, and they get nowhere, or they wreck the horse entirely. Is what we see all the time. Now, this is a better trot right there. Even with the pull up, that's a little better and more active. But I still would like to see him stretch a little deeper into it. It's a better working trot, though. You've got a better swing there and more consistency in the back end. Oops, up she goes. Very nice. This certainly looks like a really nice horse. I mean, what a fun horse. He looks like he does whatever you want him to do, and like a really good boy. Nice. Like to see, once again, when you get him, his jumping will improve a great deal too when you get him working over his back a little more. Not that that was bad, but he could have more bascule in it. Better trot there. And I love how you're mixing this stuff in. I'm a jumper rider also, so, this is so important. If only people would realize. But, what happened in America is that people, the jumper people got interested in dressage, but they tried to take dressage lessons. I went through the same thing. I was a 3-day event rider, and I tried to learn from some of these dressage people, and my horse's jumping got worse and worse, and I realized that they were having me pull the horse's head down with a hollow back. Well, that will destroy any horse's ability to jump. You'll end up in the middle of a fence, which is why we see a lot of dressage people today who don't jump, because if they did, they'd kill themselves. Their horses are so hollow. Well, what a willing and fun horse this is. I said the only thing I'm seeing here is I just want to see that stretch a little deeper. But your working trot here is a little better than it was before. Like, that's what we want to see, a big open stride. So if you sit to the trot, it should stay like that at least. And there you go. Not bad, but it's slowing a little too much. His back is falling out from underneath you. That's a little better, but I feel like it's tightening up and slowing down. So I would have risen to the trot earlier than that. And once again, the biggest thing is just get that trot a little bit deeper. Now here you're leading too much with the hind end. That will cause the horse to hit his legs together. So remember, in all lateral movements, the shoulder must lead the exercise a little bit. Otherwise, they can actually hit their legs together behind. So keep the shoulder in advance when you do that. So once again, here he's just kind of tightened up a little bit. Now the hindquarters are kind of falling out the back again. He's become too hollow. It's not really jumping off his hindquarters there. So that was a little better jump than the one before, where he was really quite hollow on you. So again, now this canter is starting to look a little what I call Pepe Le Pew-ish. It's really not getting up the ground. He's not really pushing up through your back. It's getting a little flat. And, the same thing there. That jump was really quite flat. He had no bascule the way we'd like it to be, because he's just getting too flat in the canter now. So once again, same thing. You need to stretch that neck back out. So the same things apply. You don't want to go over any jumps, even cavaletti, if the horse isn't round, that is, isn't working over its back. So get it working over its back a little more. Get your stretches a little deeper, and then add in all that, and you're really going to be there. Because you're almost there now. You're just not quite getting the stretch as deep as you'd like it to get, and then keep it there long enough so that he can consistently swing. So once again, you're ending here with a little better trot. It's better than it was. Stretching deeper, there we go, let it on down. I just want to get another foot deeper in that stretch so he can really free up those shoulders. That's why he looks a little short-strided right now. So we need to get that neck to just telegraph out rather than telegraph back into the body. Very good work. This has been Will Faerber from Art to Ride. I look forward to seeing your next video. A little deeper stretch, and really you're going to have it all together. You're like 6 inches to a foot away from really having this working really well. Now, once again, here that's not a bad working trot, but it should have more spring in it. So you let him down, and feel how when you let the horse down, you find that place where it starts to feel like a little trampoline. Like every time your bottom hits the saddle, it pops right back up because you feel that back swinging up through the back. That's what you want to feel. So just a little bit deeper in this, though this is a little better than what we had before. And look how deep he's keeping the hind legs. That's good. Get that stretch all the way down there. Good. All right, see you next time. Deeper stretch.